hello everyone, and how do you do? Welcome to your NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday the 8th of April 2024. It's Gary here again. Thanks very much for joining me. Well, my word, I'm still kind of catching my breath here. I don't know about you and how you feel about it, but all I really wanted was for us to just take it to them and expose them and impose ourselves on them. And I guess that's what happened if we're playing the opposites game, of course, and we don't like playing the opposites game, and that's not what we're hoping to do. We had just an absolutely appalling first half and then a 3-1 victory in the second half. When was the last time we scored 3 goals against them in a meaningful game, a game that was actually genuinely for something, not an end of season match or so? It was just wild, and I guess time will tell how valuable this point is or was come the end of the season. And I think, like every other single Rangers fan on the entire planet, we would have taken a point at half time. In fact, I think if someone had said at half time, we're going to get a draw from this game, they would have got a funny look to say, maybe you should lay off the bevy when you're watching Rangers. It distorts your thinking and your clarity. But I ended up feeling disappointed from the game here, and I will get to the game segment on the kind of tactical practical parts of the game in just a wee second here. But it was one of those ones where the first half was so shocking, so utterly unbelievably bad, that you're kind of stunned, and then in the second half you do everything you can to get back into the game, which we do, and then we give up the lead. But there was not one point where we had a chance to enjoy the game yesterday, apart from when we scored the equaliser, and we knew that at that point it was fairly close to the end. We did have that one chance by Dessers at the very, very death, but he should have went across the goalie, but he just snapped at it. I would have been absolutely devastated if we hadn't lost. If we hadn't. No, this is before. I would have been devastated if we didn't win the game. If we lost the game. At half time, I would have been devastated if we didn't do enough to at least make a game of it, to say, right, there's some sort of crumb of comfort to give us a wee bit of an opportunity to have something to look forward to as we go forward. It was a bad day at the office, we'll get better, we're capable of beating them at Sharkhead and that kind of thing. I don't know, it was one of those ones at the end of the game where you kind of draw a breath, you kind of go, right, okay, that was a thing. But as I say, I felt a wee bit disjointed. I felt a wee bit disappointed at the end. Not to say that I absolutely thought we deserved to win it. I think based on our second half showing, obviously we deserved to win that half for sure. As I mentioned earlier, we won that 3-1, and it should have been 3-0. The goal we lost was utter garbage. But I don't know. We'll see what that looks like in the grand scheme of things. But let's get on with the game segment for now. Of course, just the one game last week, and it was yesterday's Sunday's 3-3 draw at home to that mob from the East End. And what else to say about that I haven't already said? It was just an odd game, and I don't even know if that's the best word. Of course, I don't ever swear on the NARSA Weekly Update podcast, so let's just say odd. And we started with a familiar story of James Tavernier, from a defensive perspective, just sleeping defensively and then giving them a goal. Just absolutely handing them a goal. And what he did with that is that he completely took away the crowd. From the very beginning. We didn't have a chance to enjoy it, didn't have a chance to ease into it, didn't have a chance to really impose the crowd on the game, which obviously would be backing Rangers and going against the East End mob. It was just absolutely bizarre, and I just don't want to get away from the fact that I'm not playing the blame game here. I just want to show or demonstrate my observations. That move started from a terrible swipey hit and hope pass from Dujon Sterling in the left back position. When we've got an international left back on the bench and who isn't starting from by virtue of being behind a utility player. I mean, that obviously says something about either his fitness, I'm talking about Borna Barisic here, of course, either his fitness or a complete lack of faith. And I don't know what Borna's done in the last wee while that Philippe Clement would have an absolute complete lack of faith in him. So it was just an odd thing. He just swipes at the pass, and then it goes straight to them, and then they punt it up the park, and then that gives Tav the opportunity to put the old his best deer in the headlights look there. And as I say, the crowd were just taking, I mean, most people probably hadn't even taken their bloody seats at that point. When will these guys ever learn? I mean, there's only so much a coach or a manager can do for a player, and then you have to trust that when the players go across that white line, I know this is kind of cliche, but that they can actually do it. I don't believe that Philippe Clement is the type of coach that would ask someone to do something that he didn't think they could do, and I think that's been the testimony to his success thus far, has been that he said, right, okay, you can't actually do this, so I'm not going to ask you to do this, I'm going to ask you to do this, and if you can do this and you can do it well, then we're going to be in a good position. And there's a certain plateau, there's a certain ceiling that players get to where you say, look, you're just, I know you think you can do it, you can't do it as well as I need you to do it, or maybe even in the more negative sense, you can't do it at all. And that's what we had, just that we've seen this same old story from James Tavernier from a defensive perspective so many times, and Connor Goldson wasn't much better, and by the way, they were not the only ones, but they are more senior players, probably are best paid, are most highly paid players as well. And I don't subscribe to, if you're that highly paid, then you have to be exponentially X better than the rest of the players or anything like that. But these are the guys that we're looking to as our genuine bona fide leaders. And I think it's just scars. I think it's mental scars with these guys after so many ups and downs and so many hidings from the folks in green and grey, that they've just got to a position where they have what I would call a typical game for them, where it just seems that they just have some sort of PTSD, and they save their worst from a defensive perspective. And I'll get to Connor Goldson's attacking stuff in a wee bit here, for playing against that mob. Quite what Tav was thinking about in the first half, not just a goal in the first half, I'll never know. And I think we had a wee bit of a group chat yesterday that, once he makes a mistake, he doesn't let himself get over it in the moment, and that's the sign. That's not the sign of an elite athlete. The elite athletes can make a mistake, they can learn from it in the moment, or at least park it, move on, and not let it affect the rest of the performance. And it seems that he just can't do that. And I tell you what, folks, if James Tavernier is not careful, and I genuinely mean this, he could cost us the league. I mean, for the guy who has done so much to get us into this position, to even be talking about the realistic possibility of us winning the league, he could also, by the same token, be the guy that would cost us it, because he cost us a goal against Hibs the week before. It cost us the first goal against Celtic, and that's material. And I'll put Connor Goldson in the same bucket as that. The first half was absolutely awful. It's 5 a.m. here in Calgary, 4 a.m. on the west coast, 7 a.m. on the east coast, and then we're treated to that. Now, I know they don't go out and purposefully try and play as badly as they did. No one does. However, how could the basics not be right? I mean, I get that there's wind, I get that there's environmental factors and such like that, but how does that stop you from being able to pass that guy 5 or 10 yards away from you? How does that suddenly get you colourblind, as my dad used to say all the time? It's one of these, it was the basics just weren't there at all. They got themselves rattled in the beginning, and, we got booed off, resoundingly booed off at half time, and quite rightly so. In the second half, that second half might be actually pivotal to the league. So as much as I kind of put a doom and gloom cast on it in terms of James Tavernier and Connor Goldson and their ability to lose us this league, what we did as a collective team in the second half, but having only made one change at half time, we're kind of like, to be fair, when you've got 10 stink bombs out there, you can't change all 10 of them. But I don't know. It might be pivotal in terms of the league. If we won that game yesterday, I'm supremely confident for us winning the title. We lose that game yesterday, and I would be kind of fairly confident that we blew it and we just didn't have enough this season. So, and I know there's lots of football to be played. I'm not trying to be talking in terms of absolutes here, but the draw means it feels like we're going right to the wire. Now, the good thing is we've proved that we can go on a run and put together a string of results, as in winning results against all other teams in this league. So we just need to do that one more time and take from that and take at least a point from Sharkhead after the split, and then we're in easy streets. I know that that's easier said than done, folks. I really do. But the draw. Would I have taken a draw before the game? I'm kind of greedy. I'd have said no, but I wanted to win, of course. But after the first half, of course, the draw is going to be what we need it to be. Positives, getting a point after that abomination of the first half is an absolute definite positive, and you could see that Philippe Clement's spirits were very much raised after the game. He talked about a moral victory. Someone hopefully has a word in his ear to say, don't ever say that again, there's no such thing, my friend. But I could see what he was saying. We ended the game on a high. They could and should have been on a little bit of a downer after the way that they did things. Another positive is the league is still very much in our own hands through a combination of what I just said there or other things. But if we win the next, what's that, 7 games to go? 6 games to go? That must be 6 games to go. We win the next 6 games, then we win the league. Simple as that. Our 3 goals, even the deflection for the first goal, I thought were very well worked, and as much as I've maligned James Tavernier, I've tried to qualify most of that with his defensive work. His penalty was absolutely incredible for him to step up and do what he did there. And I actually read somewhere earlier today that he's missed his last 2 penalties. So compound the way he's playing to the conditions, to the fact that he can probably feel the crowd has a bit of a lack of faith in him, to then step up and hit a penalty like that was absolutely incredible. I mean, that's a world-class penalty. No goalie in the world ever saves that. It was just absolutely brilliant. And then I thought Matondo's equaliser was fantastic, even better on the replay than it was the first time. I thought they're coming back from 2-0 down against anyone is tremendous, but against them in particular, I don't honestly remember the last time we managed to do that. Someone was actually, I think, did I read something earlier that it was maybe like the late 80s or something like that in the 2-2 game where I think Graham Roberts was in goal and we ended up, I think was it Richard Gough that equalised at the end of the game? Forgive me if I haven't got that correct, but it was very, very long time ago. And then the second half was much better, obviously, for us. And Jack Butland deserves special praise, of course, for keeping it at 2-0 at half time. Some fantastic saves there, and seeing Kieran Dowell come on, and I thought he'd actually had quite a positive influence on the game, apart from that one blind pass where he just put it right across the goal. Thankfully, we never got punished for that one. But overall, I thought it's good to see him back and good to see him contributing at the same time. Negatives, I mean, the entire first half, of course, it was just carnage. And apart from one chance right at the very end where, to be fair to Joe Hart, he made a really good save, and maybe he was in a double save. I'm not sure if he saved the second part of that move, but it was the worst half against them that I can remember seeing, literally, and I mean that back to some of the 4 and 5-0 drubbings that we were getting from them in the earlier stages of us coming back into the league and into the Premiership in Scotland. There, I don't remember a worse time. I don't remember a worse performance even at the end of Gio's reign. I don't remember a worse performance under Beale's reign, especially towards the end, including the Aberdeen defeat at Ibrox earlier in the season. We just got off to a bad start and we seemed to use that as a catalyst for everything that could go wrong with the team. Tav had a ridiculously bad first half. The entire team did, and I thought, you know what, Silva showed us his worst and best. The best part being, of course, what he did in terms of getting the penalty. But the diving and the theatrics. I think even at one point John Lundstrom was telling him to quit it and move on. We don't need or want any of that sort of stuff from any of our players. And I thought he would have been educated enough to know that. We were just so far off it. And the 3 goals that we lost were utter, absolute garbage. Absolutely the worst of the worst. Tav was awful for the first one. Goldson was schoolboy defending for the penalty, and he's just a complete liability in attack. For any regular listeners, you'll know that I talk about Connor Goldson in attack, and I say, look, big man, just don't even waste your time going up, because you're murder. And he had two great chances yesterday, and he shouldered both of them, and they went over the bar or wide of the post. I can't remember what the second one was, but the defender, he wasn't anywhere near the trajectory of the ball coming in. His eyes are shut. Even if he'd made connection with the ball, he was going to hit the ball straight down the way, and it was unfortunate the way that it hit his elbow, and that, so I'll give him a wee bit of a pass for that. But his time and his positioning was completely off for that penalty. And then of course the third one, we take it to 2-2. We are absolutely flying, and then the whole team just goes to sleep for the third goal, and we're chasing the game again. Like, I mean, maybe as a neutral you'd watch that and say, oh, jolly good show, I really enjoyed that. I did not at all. So when we actually scored the equaliser, I didn't even celebrate as much as I did for the earlier disallowed goal, because I just wasn't sure what we were going to do after that, so I guess we'll just need to see what that looks like. In terms of stats, I'm getting my stats now from Live Score. For the second week in a row, Rangers have not been updating their website on the games played or the results page, which is a bit disappointing, because it's actually a really good page, and they don't have it for the B team or the women's team as well. I did actually send a note over to the club today to say, have we just stopped? The end of the season is not for, it's not for another month and a half, folks. Don't give up on us just now. But anyway, I got this from Live Score. We had 54% possession, 9 shots on goal with 5 on target. They had 12 shots on goal with 7 on target, and that's probably just about right, I think. Now, on the referee watch, that someone, right, let me start with this. Someone on the NARSA chat suggested yesterday that John Beaton and VAR did their job and should get a 9 out of 10. So thankfully, first off, it's me that decides what the referee gets, and not whomever it was on the chat. I won't name any names, Dan Bransfield, but I've got no issue with the penalty against us. After the VAR check, I would have been shouting for that if it was the other way around. He couldn't get his card out of his pocket quick enough to book Silva for a dive, despite having an absolutely perfect view of it, and then realised it was a clear penalty, rescinded that. And here's where I think he made a bit of a mess of it. Johnston was already on a booking. He's the new Scott Brown, isn't he? Or insert any Celtic player over the years. Here, for some reason, this boy Alistair Johnson at their right back just gets absolutely protected from referees. I don't know what it is with him. He's an arsehole, and he just goes around just thugging it up. And certainly in Old Firm games, I don't ever watch any of their other games, so I'm not sure exactly what happens there. But he's already on a booking, and we're asking why he's not. I mean, that was if not a goal scoring opportunity that he prevented by that challenge, it was certainly an attacking misdemeanour in our perspective. The ability for us to create a genuine, meaningful chance on goal, which I get that we got for the penalty, but I think he bottled it. And I get what the referees are saying. Not every single challenge has to be a yellow card and such, but I don't know. I honestly think that's a second yellow, and maybe Brenda did her job a couple of weeks ago, and by blatantly calling him out, John Beaton I'm talking about now, to soften him up for such occasions, just like this. So maybe that's what it was. The regularity of their players getting a yellow card and then fouling multiple times afterwards with no punishment just isn't good enough. It's not good refereeing. It's not effective refereeing. Carter Vickers not getting a yellow card for kicking the ball away. That's blatant. Like, that's just literally in the rule book, that if you deliberately kick the ball away when the opposition is lining up to take, I don't know what the actual rule number is or what the wording is, but you get what I mean. That's an automatic yellow card, and then he gets booked just after that, which would have been a second yellow card. Now, I know the game wouldn't have flowed like that, and maybe that might not happen, but that's not the point. Just follow the rules of the game and do that and book them, and then that's it. But here's the worst one for me. I'm getting a bit animated now. I need to calm myself down. We're almost 20 minutes in, and I've not even got beyond this game here. Can you believe it? But the worst one for me was our disallowed second goal. So our second goal, if you know what I mean. And so the replay shows it was a foul, and I have no issue with that, at all, and going back to VAR and disallowing it. The problem I have is that, once again, like our penalty, The referee could not have been better positioned to see it in the first place. If you look at any angle, Jimmy in the club was trying to say, oh, he was kind of blocked away from that. Nope, not even buying that, not even a wee bit. He had a perfect view of that and didn't call the foul from, 10 feet away? And then lets it go all the way up. And then we score, and then he goes back, and then he makes an arse of his hand waving afterwards. We think it's the goal, it's not the goal, and all that. This is just the basics. If he misses that first foul, which he did, he is not good enough to be a referee. He's not good enough to be a referee at any level of football if he can't see that foul first thing when he is looking right at it from the angle. And I challenge you folks, go and look at the angles, all the angles, and tell me that I'm incorrect, tell me that I'm wrong. I'm not, because I didn't look at all the angles, and he just made a complete and utter hash of it. So, all this to say, he did not cost us the game at all yesterday. We did a great job of that in the first half on our own. But the major calls he got right, I'm just calling out things that from a consistency, from a competence perspective, from a game flow perspective, and from a parity between both teams in terms of how we're being measured, I think he could have done better. However, it wasn't an abomination. He's going to get a 6 out of 10 for that. And primarily, he would have got a 7 if not for that mess that he made it on our second disallowed goal. Just stop it right there and then, and we don't even need to be talking about this today. Okay, I'm glad I got beyond that. 2 games this week, 2 very, very important games this week, of course, in the league. And the first one is, I'm going to say with my fingers crossed, hopefully away to Dundee on Wednesday the 10th of April with a 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time kickoff. That's 8 p.m. in the UK. And you'll remember this was postponed from a couple of weeks back, but they did actually successfully host Motherwell on the weekend, so that's a thing, and hopefully that's a positive thing. And I can't get the previous results, so I had to go and scour the internet to figure out the previous results, but we did win 5-0 at Dens Park early November. You'll remember that one was the one where we had the delay because of the weather and the traffic, and then we had the delay because of the pyrotechnics, but we won 5-0 with goals from Tav, Ryan Jack, Sam Lammers, Danilo and Dessers. And then we also had a 3-1 victory at Ibrox back in mid-September, and that was goals from Tav, Dessers and Sima. So Dessers and Tav seem to have a wee bit of a penchant for scoring against Dundee. Hopefully they do the same again, and I'll take any one of those 2 results and just get the 3 points and no injuries and continue going. That's if the game is going ahead. Hopefully it is. I haven't heard much about the weather back home thus far this week. And the second game is on Sunday, the 14th of April, and that's away to Ross County. And that's another early one for us here. That's, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and noon in the UK. And this, of course, is the last league game before the split, and we had a couple of previous results against them. We won 3-1 on Valentine's Day with 2 from Dessers and 1 from Suter. But you might remember this game on Valentine's Day, 1 because you were probably watching it on date night, and 2, we scored right at the end of the first half and right at the end of the game. So 3-1 sounds like a fairly decent, healthy margin. The 2 goals came at very, very crucial points in the game. So I say that just as a point of caution, that we don't take Ross County too lightly or anything. I don't think Philippe Clement would, but you just never know. And then late August, in the early part of the season, we run out 2-0 winners up there with goals from Kamar Roof and James Tavernier. So same again on both games. Rangers, any sort of result would be great. From RTV, I don't think we had any issues. I know that London, Ontario had some issues yesterday where they lost the feed. I have to imagine someone in the Scots Corner or the Scotsman's Way, I can't remember the exact name, I think it's the Scots Corner. I think somebody must have pulled the plug on it because it was such a diarrhea first half, and they actually did the membership a bit of a favour. But everyone else seemed to have perfect feed from Rangers TV, so hopefully just a local issue and something that they can get sorted out for this week. On the shout-outs, got a few shout-outs for this week. Just a reminder right now of the raffle that's going on for the Emmy Smiley Charity Foundation that I talked about last week. I'll keep the link on the blurb for the pod this week, and if you can go in no, it's not $10, it's £10 for each raffle ticket, and you can go in and get your donation in there, support a very, very worthwhile charity, and get yourself a fantastic signed James Tavernier shirt that commemorates Jimmy Bell and his life So yes, I'll just keep that one on. I'm not 100% sure when it closes, so I'll keep it on until it closes for sure. I'd also like to do a bit of a shout out. And this one was kind of pointed out to me this morning by NARSA VP Brian Campbell, who is travelling right now. He's actually travelling back. He's somewhere over the Atlantic as I say this right now. It's, what's that, 12:33 p.m. And, just the amount of clubs that we'd managed to secure tickets for, and other clubs who had made it over there, on their own, whether through their season tickets or such. We had Calgary represented, my home club, of course. We had Orange County, we had Toronto Central, we had Winnipeg, we had Niagara, and as I say, that most likely there were others at the same time. So great to have a bit of an NARSA representation when when we get the big games like that, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? Trying to do the best we can, follow from afar, and make it over there for the games that really matter. I'd also like to do a shout out for Cyril Desser's brother, who, yes, follow me, just bear with me here, folks. But he actually went to the Philly Loyal RSC yesterday as he's studying in Philadelphia. So my understanding is that he went there as well. That's a kind of cool thing, isn't it? And on the same sort of vein as that, unless something happened, Ethel Smith, Walter's wife, was supposed to be at the Tampa Bay Rangers Sports Club yesterday as well. That was arranged probably about almost a couple of months in advance, I think, and I know that they were very much looking forward to it. I know for a fact that Ethel was looking forward to it, and I hope that they had a great time when they were there. I know that they were going to do something kind of cool for her being there at the same time, so that's kind of cool. So it's nice when we get some royalty visiting us at the same time as we're enjoying the world famous Glasgow Rangers. And as much as I've maligned our captain today with a little sprinkling of kudos for the penalty, I would like to send out hearty congratulations to James Tavernier. 131 senior goals from a defensive position, overtaking Graham Alexander as the highest scoring British defender of all time, and also winning the fans voted and Experience Kissimmee sponsored Player of the Month award at the same time. So congratulations to James Tavernier. In the fullness of time, we're going to look at all the goals, and we might look at the very odd defensive tackle that went okay. He's not that type of player, and I appreciate and understand that, but when it's material and when it costs us like it did yesterday, it's not good enough, it's not good, it's not cool, and we have to get that completely eradicated from the team if we want to go forward. Here's another thing, by the way, and this is not really so much a shout out, but this ragtag bunch of misfits that Philippe Clement inherited and has moulded into something is still on course for a treble, folks. So you might be half full or half empty today. I'm usually half full all the time. I was just a bit disappointed we didn't show up better yesterday. The result is the result, but we didn't account ourselves very well on that stage, and we just haven't laid a glove on them. I can't remember the last time that we genuinely, it's probably 3 or 4 years since we genuinely went ahead against them in a meaningful way. So that's my disappointment. But maybe as a shout out to Philippe Clement and his management team, and to the entire squad for getting us in a position where we are creeping on the middle of April and we are in with a chance of the treble. We're the only team in the country and with a chance of winning the treble. The Carey on their travels. Debbie and Andy are now, I believe they're in London right now as I say this. Chloe has stuck around Paisley, and they were they've had a bit of a great time. They had a wedding, they had a bowling club day, some family time and such, but the trip has went fairly quickly. I'm going to pick them up at the airport tomorrow, see what sort of chocolate they're bringing me back. I cannot wait. To see that they get back safe and sound is what I mean. And speaking of Brian Campbell, which I did earlier today, I would like to wish Brian, I wasn't sure when his birthday was, to be very honest. I want to wish him a happy birthday this coming Friday, the 12th of April. Brian is 50 this coming Friday, the 12th of April. You might remember last year I did a series of times because I couldn't remember exactly when his birthday was, and I think I did it before and after. But now I know for sure because he told me directly himself that his birthday was the 12th, so the weekend that him and Gaynor had there was basically his birthday gift, I assume, like a bit of a pre-celebration. I'm sure he'll do some other stuff this weekend coming. But yeah, in advance, happy birthday, Brian. Thank you very much for everything that you do for NARSA, and I hope you have many happy returns when it comes on Friday, my friend. Another shout out here for Fenerbahce. Did you hear or read anything about Fenerbahce and what they did in the Turkish Super Cup final against Galatasaray? They had asked for the game to be moved because they have a big European game coming up this week, and the Turkish footballing authority said, nope, you're not getting that. And they went, okay. So they fielded their under-19 side, who walked off 1 minute into the game in the protest at unfair treatment. They're also kind of complaining about mistreatment from referees and such, and they just took a stand. They essentially forfeited the cup. I assume they fielded a team and then just decided to walk off to avoid some sort of fine or some sort of sanction or suspension or something like that. But taking a stance like that, forfeiting the opportunity to win a cup, protecting their team, of course, for a major game this week. Does that remind you of anything, folks? Does the Turkish authorities remind you of any other authorities in any other European league in the world? Good for them for making a stance. And just one final shout out for the Toronto Midtown Rangers Supporters Club Cultural Night on Friday the 19th of July. You can email to tmrsc1998@outlook.com to secure your spot. From a convention update this week, I'm very delighted to tell you that it's 430 days and 61 weeks until we descend upon Kissimmee in Osceola County, Florida, and that's from June the 12th to the 16th, 2025. Now, I have an announcement to make. I think I did mention last week that we were just closing in on the MC confirmation. And what I did, something a wee bit different this year, I'm going to, for every major person that we're inviting to the convention, I'm going to do a video for that person, just a private video between me and them, but just to add a wee bit more personality, a little bit more personable touch to it. So I did that indeed with this particular person, sent him a video, and then he ignored it for 24 hours, and then I had to send him a note the next day saying, did you see this? And then he got back saying, oh my god, I'm so sorry, I missed it. Absolutely, I will be absolutely, and I would be honoured to be your MC. And I'm delighted to tell you folks that we have Heart and Hand's very own David Edgar confirmed as our MC yet again for NARSA 2025. He's been our MC for many a convention, but actually only managed to do it twice because of pandemics and such like that. So we're delighted to get him there. He knows the fabric of who we are, what we're all about. He's a tremendous help in terms of on-site management, logistics, and managing the crowd and such, and absolutely thrilled to get him. And as a result of that, from a communications standpoint for this week, I'm going to be doing a guest slot on the Heart and Hand Daily Update this coming Wednesday. So if you get a chance to listen to that on Wednesday, you'll hear my dulcet tones for the second time in a week, assuming that you've listened to this before you listen to that, or assuming that you listen to both. But yeah, you know what that's like. So yeah, we've got David confirmed, and that's our first major step in terms of our VIP pool. We did have a kick-off with 5 stars last Wednesday, and we have a in principle common understanding of where they fit in the overall logistics and planning, and what that would manifest itself into in terms of on-site logistics come the actual event in and of itself. So yeah, we're off to a great start. I was hoping to get some more positive information about the hotel to be able to start to give you an idea of when we can put the hotel out for sale, but their system's a wee bit different than previous systems that I've dealt with from a hotel management and logistics perspective, and it's kind of basically the approvals have to go through their system. They were hoping to have all the approvals completely done, written off, completely signed off, and then we would get a chance to say, right, this is your actual management team that you're going to be working with. It's essentially a logical handoff between the sales team and the events team. and such, but we didn't have that, and up to the time of recording I don't have that information just now. Hopefully I'll get that this afternoon or tomorrow, and then we can meet with them a little bit later on in the week if possible, and then get moving on that. So more to follow on that when we have it, and we are working in the background at the same time where we are going to be looking at what the ticket prices will be, and then getting those on sale as quickly as we possibly can as well. And just to that point, we have a NARSA executive meeting this coming Wednesday night, and we will be talking about some various particulars around about the convention, and just basically our admin planning for the remainder of the season so that we can finish off well. And we will be talking about our AGM date. I think we'll make that, probably just make that the first weekend in June, I think the first weekend after the end of the season, and get that one done. Hopefully we'll actually have people attend this one, and we can get moving on that one. So more to follow next week on that when I have a wee bit more information. Okay, on to communications. This is a part where I almost was going to say that the Gers guide is getting later and later and later published on the Rangers website, but just before recording it popped up, so that's a good thing. And today we have Inside Ibrox, and that's a review of yesterday's Old Firm game, of course. Tomorrow we have the press conference for the Dundee game, and we'll also be posting information on the website about the loan review and see how everyone is doing out there. And then on Wednesday we of course have the Dundee game. On Thursday there is a special interview with Joe Potter on RTV with an eye on the weekend's game against Glasgow City, a huge game on the weekend against Glasgow City. On Friday we have the press conference for the men's game against Ross County, and the press conference for the women's game, the official press conference for the women's game for the Glasgow City game. And then on Sunday, of course, we have the Ross County game, and then we have the Rangers women's versus Glasgow City, and that's at Broadwood, and that's a 3 p.m. kickoff. This is a massive time for both the men's and the women's team. I know I mentioned that before. They're also away to Hearts next midweek, too. So a couple of big games coming up here, and I think the games are just coming thick and fast for them. So you might see some changes in scenery at the top of the league over the next wee while. The main thing is Rangers are at the top come the end, and that's all that matters. I did notice that there was information on the Rangers website that was entitled Fan Engagement Update, and it talked about the Fan Advisory Board. They had a meeting, I guess that was probably about a month ago now, I think it was, and it talked about the Fans Advisory Board meeting. It talked about the pending CEO Fans Forum, which is coming up next week. I did send a note to Greg Marshall, the Supporters Liaison Officer, to see if NARSA could get represented with asking questions that would be read out on our behalf at next week's Fans Forum. If he gets back to me, we'll put a note out to the membership to say, is there any questions specifically you'd like to ask specific to NARSA and overseas fans and things like that? They'll take care of the logistics of match day experiences and such with the people that actually experience them. There was also information there about the singing section moves, and then some updates on the fan liaison team that Greg Marshall heads up. So I'll put a link to that article. There's some good information in there. I did read the minutes this morning of the Fan Advisory Board meeting that took place about a month or so ago, and it's a good read. That they're just getting going here in terms of how to best use the Fans Advisory Board, and how they see themselves fitting in, what skill sets they have, what roles and responsibilities they would like to assume versus what the club would like to use them for. You can tell it's still very much in its infancy, and there's not an absolute roadmap just yet, but you'll get to access those minutes through the link that I'll leave on the blurb for today, and you get a chance to read that if that floats your boat. But yeah, even in lieu of affirmation that we can ask a question, if you have any questions that you'd like us to pose to them, please by all means get them over to me, rangersscc@hotmail.com. That's 2 S's and 2 C's, and I will get them collated and over to them prior to the next CEO Fans Forum, which is on the 16th. So it's a week tomorrow, a week Tuesday. Yep, so I'll be able to talk about that a wee bit on next week's pod as well. In terms of the Euro 2024 pool, we are still intending to go ahead on that, but we just want to do our homework to make sure we're not going to fall foul of the law and do some sort of essential gambling situation where NARSA puts it all out there. We invite people from all over the world, and then in some way and we're not following our admin structure or admin status. So still intending to go ahead with it. We just want to get our, as they say over here, our ducks in a row, so that we get to a situation where we're above board and we're not putting ourselves in any danger on that. And once again, I'd just like to ask if there's anything you'd like to see or have included or even taken out of the NARSA newsletter. Please, by all means, let Lorraine know, and she will give you, basically what you need. I mean, it's the NARSA newsletter for NARSA members, so we hope that you're getting value from them. They're very short and sweet. We just kind of put the information that you need to know. Some of it's supplementary from the podcast, some of it's just other bits and bobs, but it's just to try and re-garner the feeling of membership and community and camaraderie. So if you have anything on that, please do let us know. We got some photos from yesterday's Old Firm game, which we'll be able to post on this week's newsletter. We'll get that out either Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm sure. The final one is the David Holmes interview. I know that Brian and Gaynor were at David Holmes' night the other night, and I seen Brian in one of the photographs with about 15 books that he bought. I'm hoping one of them is for me. I actually need to order my book and get that organised so that I can at least scan through it prior to doing that. It's one of the list of things to do, one of the items on my list of things to do, I should say, but I just haven't quite gotten to that yet. Hopefully I'll maybe get on that this week if I can. Anyway, a little bit of a longer one. You can blame the Rangers' first half performance, you can blame our captain's performance, you can blame our vice captain's performance, and you can blame the referee's performance for the extended pod this week. But next week we'll get back to it being a bit shorter, I promise. And I take this opportunity every single week to let you know how much I appreciate you listening in. Please do share it with anyone that you think would get some value from it. Folks, we know what this week means. We need 6 points from this week. Simple as that. By hook or by crook, by any means necessary, get the 6 points, and then next week we start to really genuinely talk about the countdown. Maybe even by the time I record next week, we'll know what the final 4 fixtures are, or the final 5 fixtures, my apologies, are. Oh no, it's 5 to go, so it's 7 games. I think I said 6 earlier. 7 games to go. So yeah, we'll hopefully get some more information between now and then, and it'll be the same value add listening pleasure that you'll get next week as you get every other week. Okay, my friends, thanks again for taking the time to listen. Take care of yourself, and I'll chat to you next week. Bye now.